We have now started to see some pro sports being played in front of empty stadiums, empty arenas, empty ballparks. Have we lost anything visually with nobody in the stands, or is it just fine? Let's dive down that rabbit hole. Watch some of the Blue Jays on the weekend. You may have too. And the baseball was, it was okay. What was really startling, if you've watched a lot of baseball in the past, was the lack of anybody in the stands. Bubba O'Neill, did it take anything away from the visual experience of watching a ball game?
Well, seeing that it was a Tropicana field, that wasn't a big surprise not to see a lot of people in the stands there for the Blue Jay games. But, I mean, being quite serious with it, I think we've also, in a real hurry, because we have seen some sports come up, the English Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, golf in particular. We've almost been prepared for this, I think. So it really didn't bother me. What I was actually rather impressed with was the underground tones of just something, or a hum or a crowd, and at times it coming up and down in terms of the volume, or as the excitement level came up. There was some audio that I thought I kind of got used to. So I'm pleasantly impressed.
Rick?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I'm as bothered as I thought I would be. I thought I'd be missing something, but at the end of the day, the broadcast networks have done a fine job of having a little din or a hum or some kind of buzz on their broadcast feed. Some have pumped in some artificial crowd noise, and it's not as absurd as I thought it was going to be. They've done a fine job of amplifying the hum around the ballpark, and they did that well with the Blue Jays broadcast. I was watching some other ball games over the weekend, and they've done a really good job. I thought I'd miss it more than I have. I think maybe, as Bubba alluded, it was more the expectation that we knew what we're going to get into with no fans, and it hasn't been awkward at all.
Steve?
I think from the sporting angle, you get used to it, and you start watching the game a little more closely. I mean, especially in the baseball part of it, because you're not sort of distracted by the fans. But I think I didn't like the feel of it, and it was wildly variant depending on what you watched, even within the same sport like baseball. Some of the cutout stuff was ridiculous. Some of it actually they made fun of themselves by showing the mascots in the empty stadiums. But there was a point on Thursday night when Giancarlo Stanton, who's just is a great player, and he finally makes this incredible triumphant return. And he hits a home run, and now it was on the road anyways. But it was this kind of, there was no kind of excitement, and I'm just wondering when we move towards games that mean more, if we're going to notice that more. There's a second thing is that you get used to it, but what about the casual fans? Kind of getting you? Are they going to stay around after 4 or 5 innings to get used to it? I mean, we're sports people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Bubba when you talk about the hum. I think if you had no noise at all, it would sound weird. It would sound like you're playing in a warehouse somewhere. But at the same time, a couple times in the Jays game, one of the ones I was watching, the pitcher would get to 2 strikes, and they would crank it up like somehow the invisible crowd was on its feet roaring for the strike. I was like, come on. I mean, we're not idiots. That part I thought was a little ridiculous. Have the hum because it takes that sterile, echoey sound out of the place. But, and as for Steve's other point, I mean, I saw in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, they put cardboard cutouts behind the stands. And they did it, well, Wrigley Field also did it in the bleachers. Los Angeles, I think, I couldn't tell because they never really gave a close-up. I think they kind of got the right idea because if I got it right, they did a little bit of a Sgt. Pepper thing and put some celebrities. I think Barack Obama's behind home plate. That's what they should have done. Los Angeles should have had nothing but celebrity cutouts, and other places do stuff. There's things you could do with this to make it more fun as opposed to trying to just pretend like in Korea. Remember they used the sex dolls in the Korean baseball? There's things you can do to make it fun. This thing looks like it was just, we got to have something that looks like somebody's there, and it's not real.
Well, they're selling them in Philly, right, and a few other places. You can buy,
really?
Yeah, you can buy your image on there. I mean, it's an income.
Okay,
well, you see, a lot of Go ahead, Bubs.
I'm just saying I give a lot of credit to the NBA because I think they're trying. They're trying some things. And some of these preseason scrimmage games, you saw the effects of fans. And when, because every team they're still a home and away team, even though they're playing at a neutral site. They have put in, or at least the visualization on these screens of hometown crowds. And, when it's time to play defense, let's go defense. So they're trying different things. And there's going to be hits and misses. But I'm wondering almost if this is going to be more of a sport thing. Like, will we really miss it in football, in the NFL, when it's third down and you're on the road? We always talk about a hostile environment. Will the networks try and amplify it in that sense? Hockey, where we get a large crowd at times when, you just finished killing a penalty and the crowd erupts because the teams did such a great job of killing a penalty. Will the networks react that way? I mean, so I'm almost wondering if we'll miss it more in some sports than others.
Bubba,
I think that's definitely true.
Rick, go ahead, Rick. But I think basketball, I think the NBA, I thought it looked horrible. I think it looked like a game at Mohawk College, and that's fine if you're at Mohawk College, but you're not the NBA. And I was not impressed with the NBA's attempt at all. But Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree 100% on that. The NBA, it's so sterile. You have the massive screen that goes basically from baseline to baseline, and there's no plastic cardboard cutout fans or 3D imagery of fans. By the way, a lot of those baseball teams are offering fans a chance to purchase their image on these cutouts, and that money goes to charity, which is a pretty good cause. But yeah, the NBA and especially with the NHL, I'm very eager to see what they do in terms of, because it's a much more fluid sport compared to baseball and even football. There's a lot of start and stop in those two sports. Basketball and hockey, way more fluid. So if you're going to toy around with the fan noise or the crowd noise, it's much more trickier in those two sports. So I'm very eager to see how they do it.
I was impressed by the CEBL broadcast. And I mean, they didn't really try to pump any fan noise in, really. But the thing about basketball that maybe will give them an edge there, if the players, a lot of it will be dependent upon how much the players fully buy in every second of every game. And you may not need as much fan noise there because the intensity will be much more obvious to us because of the close crop nature of it. They don't have to show any empty stands. One of the problems with all of this that shows us the empty stands is while it is a return to normality of some kind, it also starkly reminds us that we are in a pandemic, right? And basketball doesn't have to remind us of that. I mean, they can because of the hollowness and we'll draw inferences, but it won't be as graphic as empty stands or cardboard cutouts because you can close crop it.
Steve, there does seem to be, though, something that I'm sure the teams have considered, but it seems an obvious that would be much more natural that's not being done. We have the technology. We're doing it right now, sitting here from our homes or our offices, talking on Zoom. Why could the Blue Jays not say, look, Blue Jay fans can log into this and watch the game, and it'll pick up your audio so that when there's something happening, you can hear fans actually cheering. And then, you know what? If you want to have that home field advantage, if you can get enough people together to do it, you can get that. To me, I'd much rather have something like that than just a canned fake.
Well, I think they'll get to that, and here's why they're going to have to get to it. Because next weekend, you've also got hockey and basketball coming back, right? So now you're going to have 3 or 4 things competing for the same thing. So now it's going to be a battle of who does the best thing technologically. I think you're going to see that some kind of variations on the thing you say.
The MLS was toying with a little bit of that in their MLS is Back tournament, where after a goal or after a big play, they would have a screen there. I'm not sure how much noise is coming off that screen because you can't really tell on the broadcast, but fans are interacting with what is happening on the field. So they have, Zoom sessions and fan groups, I guess, joining in to express their love or dismay with what's happening on the pitch.
Do you think that basketball will get a bit of a free pass? Because when you do go to the basketball game, as much as the fan experience is there and volume of fans is there, depending on what's going on in the court, we're used to hearing the squeaking. And this is why I agree with Steve, because I thought the CEBL presentation was on point. They blacked it out, the Meridian Center, but we're used to hearing the squeaking of the shoes, but with music as well, too. No other sport plays music other than lacrosse that I can think of.
Yeah.
during its actual presentation of the sport. So you're hearing the music and you're hearing the squeaking, which almost to me simulates what you would be hearing in any other regular game, except with the fans going crazy on a slam dunk. So 2 out of 3 maybe not bad in this situation for basketball.
And one other sport that has come back early, UFC, that's a different scenario entirely, because that sport actually, it turns out, often lends itself to not having crowd noise, because you get if you're into this kind of stuff, you get a pretty visceral feel for what's going on if you can hear punches and you can hear the guys grunting or whatever else. I mean, that lends itself to being able to hear what's going on in the cage. But you're right, Bob. The NBA audibly has some advantages for sure. And
visually, because of the close cropness of the court. I think a lot of this, guys, is going to depend on this. Remembering that so much of where money in sport come from is from the fan that's sort of on the edge. They're sports fans, and then they really start paying attention to their team. I mean, the hardcore people are probably going to watch this. It's really going to depend on how your team does here. You know, I think you're going to lose interest in a hurry. If the Jays go 0-9, how many of us are going to watch just to see if Vlad can play first base?
Well, if the Jays go 0-9 or 1-9,
1-8, yeah.
1-8. With 16 teams getting the playoffs, if you don't get in the playoffs this year, sure. Oh man. Rick, question for you: would you pay to have your face put on a cardboard cutout? Would there be value in that for Rick Zamperin to have you? I don't see the point at all. But anyway, what about you?
You know, if the money's going to charity, fine. I'd probably make a funny face, or maybe put my kid's face on there just to, have them have the exposure. But yeah, I mean, if it's going to a good cause and it's benefiting whatever charity X, I see there's value in that. But from a fan standpoint, for me to see, hey, where am I in the stadium? I could care less.
But I mean, wouldn't it just be better? Because I did see a Fox mock-up of a CG presentation of fans filling the stadium, not just because to me the cardboard cutouts, they don't move, they just sit there. It's so static. But I've seen these actual presentations from Fox, and they haven't implemented it yet. I guess maybe they haven't done any of these national games in baseball yet, where it actually simulates a crowd and there is moving. We see it in video games. Why can't they do it for the real thing?
I mean, this thing is going to start moving towards video games anyway, and maybe for a long time here. I mean, not just because we don't know how long the pandemic is going to last, but because maybe they discover some things here by necessity that'll become the mother of a new type of invention.
Always happens.
Always happens. And look at all of the things that have changed in the in-park experience in all sports now over the last 25 to 30 years, over the last 3 to 5 years. And those evolved from something else. And some stuff could evolve from this. They're going to have to try and experiment with a lot of things. I think competition will make them do that. But it also depends on how much money they have production-wise.
Yeah, the CGI fans weren't so bad. I was watching a Cubs game over the weekend, and they had a CGI crowd, and I thought, wow, that looks okay. I thought it would look a lot worse, but it looks okay.
Here's how to make some money if you're in Major League Baseball. I'm going to help you out with a free marketing tip. The Cubs field had the bleachers filled with those cardboard cutouts. You buy your face on a cardboard cutout, and if a home run ball smashes into your face and obliterates your cutout, you win a prize.
You win the ball.
If your seat gets blown up, like having a speaker fall on you from Tim Hortons Field, only with a ball instead, you win some sort of prize. And when baseball comes back, we're going to help you out. What do you think? Do you think, having watched a little bit of sports, that missing out on the crowd is causing you to miss out on something to do with it? We would love to hear from you. Our Twitter handles have been on the screen. They'll be up afterwards. By the way, subscribe to the videos. You can do that down below. Hit notifications. We would love for you to be able to keep up whenever we do one of these. Guys, thanks for doing this. We will talk to everybody soon.